All right, guys, here we are. We are back for the final Momentum Monday of the season, not the final Momentum Monday. And we will get fired back up in the fall. So we are going to take a little break for the summer. But I'm really excited to be able to be here with you guys today and talking about how to become the only logical choice for your clients and how to see exactly where your next three deals are going to come from. If we chunk it down and go, let's just go get the next three. You get those three, and then you go after the next three, and then you repeat, repeat, repeat. So excited to share this with you guys. Hopefully, some of you have access to your chat. So get on there. What I want you to do is I want you to throw in the chat, just give me like 1 to 3 words. Why should someone hire you instead of the agent down the street? Any of the other agents in your marketplace? Go ahead and throw it in chat. Why should someone hire you? Oh, hold on. There we go. Need 1 to 3 words in the chat. Nika, 1 to 3 words. I like it though. My clients are treated like family. Anybody else? Tough one, huh? All right. I want what they want. Local knowledge. I build wealth. I like it. All right. Okay. If you are struggling with this, that's why we have a class. All right. Cool. All right. So, here's the question, right? Did you type or were you thinking of some version of better? Or maybe because of the title of the class, did you hold back on what you were going to type because you were trying to figure out how to tweak that? What do you think? Go ahead. You guys can come off mute. Anybody have something in their heads that is, where they're going, man, I feel like that's just a version of better.
I think I think a lot of us probably feel that way and afraid to talk about it. But it's not, I don't think of it as better, but I do think that I do a really good job over someone else. So I guess that is that. I guess
Yeah.
so but I understand what you're saying. Like it's not enough, you know.
Yeah, we're gonna dig into that and say,
Everybody says that,
yeah,
right?
what path do we go? Exactly. Yeah, because most agents, when we talk about what you do, it's we all sort of, at least at the base, do the same thing, right? I mean, we're helping people buy a house or sell a house. So then it's like, yeah, I help you buy a house, but I do it better than the other agents. Or I help you sell your house, but I do it better. I sell it faster. I get the better price. I do whatever, all of those things, right? And so we want to put out there kind of that description of how we do our business and why they should work with us instead of the other agent. And it's typically I do it better. There's a funny, I don't know if you guys remember Brian Regan. He's a comedian, and he would talk about being like a refrigerator salesman at Best Buy or something else like that, right? And you go in to shop for your refrigerator, and he would go to one refrigerator, and he's like, "This one keeps all of your food cold, and it's $500." And then he's like, "Come on, I'll show you the next one." He brings you over the next one. He goes, "This one will also keep your food cold, and it's $700." Right? You just kind of like, what do you do? Like this one has a meat drawer. Like he's trying to go like, what are the things about it that makes it better, and the difference in cost and everything else like that. And so that's, I think, sometimes the approach where we look at the things that we do.
So could I interject a little bit on that, Dave?
Yeah, Brandon, go
Because
ahead,
I
man.
think I think a lot of times we also look at competition, how, we're all using this word better when sometimes it's also not the best to compete because there is a lot out there, and I think we need to really accentuate what we do well and kind of sometimes leave. Yeah, we are in competition, let's all admit. And there's only so many finite numbers, but at the end of the day, I think it's accentuating what we're good at and not kind of leaving the competition on the side, unless, hey, they're reviewing four different agents to pick their listing. But, I think sometimes we do focus on the side players in the competition a bit too much as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to show you a path around that because the concept of better is really an opinion, right? It's very subjective. I mean, it's better in your mind, right? It's better, you think it's better, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's what they want, right? And how do you even quantify better, right? How do you even describe that? So it's really invisible. It really gets lost in the noise when we put that out there. All right.
It
So
does.
you've heard me say this before. Your success is directly proportional to the number of people who, when they think of real estate, think of you, right? But they have to think of you first, right? They don't go, well, here are all the agents, and here, oh, this one, and then this one, and this one, oh, and then also this person. But I think that they're better. Okay, but they have to think of you. There's a limited amount of space in our brains. So what will make them think of you is what we want to come up with today, right? So you're fighting for the number one slot, maybe second place. All right. The brain can handle a max of up to 7 brands, and it depends on everyone's brain, right? Some people's brains are bigger than others. Your brain can handle a max of 7 brands in any category. Okay. And in a low involvement category, similar to real estate, right? 2 brands. Because it's a high involvement if you're doing it all the time, you're accessing it all the time, you're seeing it all the time, right? Then they can hold 7. But in something where they don't come into content, they're not buying and selling houses, most of them, all the time. Maybe some investors are buying and selling a lot of properties, but otherwise it's not something that's on their mind all the time. They can hold 2 brands, right? Which means 2 realtors that they're going to remember. You need to be one of the 2. And you ask them, hey, how many agents? Now, maybe they're in some situation where they're more involved in the real estate community, but otherwise, for most standard, buyers and sellers out there, before they're buyer and seller, that time in between, they're like, all right, I bought my house, I moved in, I'm not thinking about anything real estate for the next 5, 7 years, whatever that is now, right? And so it just fades. It just fades. So they're not thinking about it. It's not getting past their reticular activating system, right? And everyone's hit with roughly 3,000 ads every single day. Everyone has noise coming out. That's what that RAS does. It acts as a blocker, and it just bing, everything bounces off. So all this information, all this data is coming in, and nothing's getting passed because it all sounds the same. And it doesn't seem like something that they want or they need. Right? Have you ever decided you came up with a need? So maybe something broke, or in your house, and so you need to buy a new one, or maybe you're thinking about it's time to get a new car. Okay, and then all of a sudden, all of those things, you're seeing them everywhere. Now, some of it's because your phone's always listening to you, and it's if you're talking about it, it starts popping up in your ads. But some of it is like now I start to see it on the road, or I start to see it out of here, or someone else is talking about it. Those things were happening before. They just weren't getting past that reticular activating system, your RAS. Okay, so all of that was already happening. It just wasn't getting through because you didn't have a need. That information and that noise is constantly bouncing around all around you. It's just not getting through to your brain because your brain is only allowing through the items that it thinks that you need. So you have to get yourself to the point where what you're providing is meeting a need, right? And that's how you get heard. We're going to talk about that. Okay. But with 5 to 7 years between for most clients, they're just not going to hear you. So better doesn't get through. It just stays as part of the noise. Different is where you stand out. So I call it that Me Too message. There's a and I know there's a when I first started talking about this, that wasn't part of another another messaging, but it's that is that concept of, hey, I do this, yeah, me too. I do that, yeah, me too. Right? All these other agents, when they talk about what they do, and you're saying I do that too. And so that doesn't get you past mind share. And there's also studies that when someone has mind share, when someone's in that number one slot, when someone thinks of real estate, that's the first name that comes to mind for them. It is almost impossible to unseat that person in that category. Okay. It is almost impossible to bump them out of it unless they mess up, right? Unless they do something wrong and that person starts going, well, I don't think of them for that anymore because I don't like them. I don't like what they did. I used them last time and I didn't feel like they did a good job, whatever it is. Okay, then you might have a chance, but that's few and far between. So if you're competing for that number one slot, people have one or two realtors that they're going to think of when they think of real estate. If they already have someone there, it's very difficult to break into that spot, even if it's your family, right? Even if it's your neighbors, people that you know really well, you may know them better. But if there's an agent in the area who has done just an amazing job at their marketing and being out there and being seen in the community, selling a lot of houses, signs everywhere, they might think of that person before you, even your mom, right? So your own family may think of someone else first before you in real estate because that person is connecting their name and real estate so frequently that they've earned that number one spot, and it's really hard to bump them out of the way. Okay. And you can't be number one to everyone, but you can be number one to someone. So let's talk about how we do that. All right. I want to give you two examples of companies that have done this. So Gillette has been out there. Everybody knows Gillette. Yes. We know Gillette. Okay. All right. So everybody knows Gillette. And they've been out forever. They had 70% of the market, the US market for razors. Okay, you go into the store, 70% of the razors sold were Gillette razors. All right. And their whole thing was like they just kept upgrading, right? Well, now I don't know how many blades do they have on those things now? There's like 14 blades and they have a glide strip and all those things. They even came out with the ones like battery powered where it's almost like an electric razor. All of those things. They spent billions and billions of dollars in research and creating, sharper blades and all of those things. And then, they've got Super Bowl ads, so they spend all that money to be out front. So along comes Dollar Shave Club, right? They didn't go for, well, we're a better blade, we're a better, razor than Gillette, right? They just said, hey, we're going to make it really easy on you. Subscription services, pricing that was cheaper, right? And then their ads. I don't know if you guys have seen their ads, but they're hilarious. The CEO of that company is the founder is really funny. They have some really, really goofy ads. It got people's attention, but their thing was, listen, we're delivering it right. You get it right on schedule. You need these all the time. We're going to deliver them to you. You're going to get them cheaper. They're still going to be good razors, but our point is we're going to make it easy. We're going to make it inexpensive, and we're going to capture your attention. And they were different. Okay. So he went from zero in sales coming into the marketplace to 200 million in less than 5 years. And then he was bought out by Unilever for $1 billion. $1 billion. Okay. That's not bad. 5 years breaking into the marketplace and getting the attention that you were enough of a threat and enough competition that you got $1 billion buyout. That was disrupting the industry and getting out there in front where you had to convert people. So they didn't go after and say, okay, we're going to be up there with Gillette. We're going to start spending a ton of money on Super Bowl ads, and we're going to do all this R&D, and we're going to create a blade that is better than the other one. Right? That position was already taken in people's minds. This was a different approach. Pizza Hut, the Pizza Wars. You guys remember the Pizza Wars? Okay. Pizza Hut what do they say? Nobody out pizzas the Hut. I forget what their their thing was. Right? You gotta remember. So Pizza Hut, that was like you had the skillet, you had the whole thing where you go in there, and it was just their like almost like the down home experience making the pizza, and that was the experience, the brand, and all of those things, the secret recipes, and all of that. That was supposed to be the best pizza, and for a while, Pizza Hut was the category king. Right. So they were number one in pizza sold in the United States. So then Domino's came along. Well, what did Domino's come out with? Do you remember their commercial? It was "Get the door, it's Domino's." You remember that? And they had that 30-minute guarantee. That was awesome. 30 minutes or your pizza's free. That became your pizza's hot, it's fresh. Because Pizza Hut, you had to go into Pizza Hut, right? Well, everybody got busy. There was a need that was out there that wasn't being met, but nobody was seeing the need, right? No one was seeing that as the need. When they thought of pizza, they thought of, well, you're going to make really good pizza. That wasn't the need at this time that people were seeing, and people weren't even thinking about that. I'll tell you that people didn't, for the most part, really even know that they had that need. They didn't think about that with pizza. They just thought about, well, I want my pizza to taste good. This has the best pizza. We're going to go there to eat. Okay. What Domino's saw was a need that was out there that wasn't being met, and a place where they could differentiate themselves. So they bet everything on delivery and not the dining room, right? And they went for something that was different, not better. They didn't compete and say, hey, we're coming out with a new pizza and our pizza's even better than Pizza Hut's. Here's why, right? So they did $9.5 billion in sales. They passed Pizza Hut as the number one pizza company in the United States. So how does this apply to real estate? How does this apply to you? You've got to find your spot where you are different. You have to find the need behind the need, and you have to put yourself in the position where you can be number one. So part of that, and you guys, some of you heard me talk about the law of sevens, right? There's seven different ways to do this. One of them is think backwards. Okay. When I say think backwards, instead of moving yourself into the number one position in the minds of your sphere of influence, of the people that you want to be doing business with, I want you to find the area where you already have that number one mind share. What do people already know you for? What do they think about you? If you were to ask a bunch of people that you want to serve, okay, that are in your sphere, say, these are the people that I want to work with. Like, hey, what's my number one quality? What do you know about me? What are the things that you think about me? How do you think I might do business, run my business, take care of my clients? What are the words that you would use? How do you picture me in that kind of a working environment? Like, what is that? And if it's Nico said about treating his clients like family, right? That might be one of those things where they go, hey, I know that you're going to go to war for us. I know that you're going to go to bat for us. You're going to take care of us, and you're going to treat me like you're working with your own family. Okay, great. Well, if that's what everyone knows about you, right, then you're looking at, okay, how does that turn into service? But the point is you're finding that spot where you're number one. What if you save them the most money, make them the most money? If you're working with investors and everything else, great. What am I doing for that category? All right. Real estate agent is a commodity. There are a lot of realtors out there, and just doing the process, we've seen it now with AI and everything else, right? They're looking at saying, well, you can get all this information once the internet opened up the MLS system, and once that became something where all that information was shared, and you got Zillow and you've got everything else. Clients can do so much of the work themselves. They can gather so much information, right? They can do so much of the process themselves. But what is your category? What is that, right? So I put in, like, if you're the go-to agent for downsizing empty nesters in Berks County, right? Little shout out to Mark and Rochelle there, right? If you're the go-to agent for downsizing empty nesters in Berks County, that's a category. right? That's different than saying I sell real estate. If that is an area, we know that Mark and Rochelle work with seniors, right? They work with seniors who are maybe moving into senior living, senior housing. They're selling their house or they're downsizing, and that whole entire process. We've lived in the house for 30, 40, 50 years, and we need to pack everything up, and we need to, make this transition. And, maybe as you get a little older, things are a little bit more difficult, and that whole process is overwhelming. Right. And how does all of that work? And what do we do with all of our stuff? And how do we coordinate this with our family? All of those things. What do we do? What if we want to leave things in a trust, or, all of the process that is involved in that? If that is your area of expertise, then that's different, because that becomes an area where you are the best. Not just I sell houses, right? Not I sell the houses faster and everything else. If it's just about the help you buy a house, help you sell a house, right? If it just becomes, if you want to say, yeah, I do it faster. Okay. Well, if you want to be known for selling houses really fast, you can't just say I sell houses faster. You have to demonstrate what you do differently, because there's no magic behind it, right? If you don't do something different, your houses aren't magically going to sell faster than anyone else's. You're just connected to the market like everyone else is. The houses sell when they sell. Now maybe you're better at pricing. Okay, prove it. What do you do differently? Do you have a process that gets the houses priced to sell? What if you help people sell for top dollar? Okay, prove that. What do you do differently to make that happen? Right? What if you make it a stress-free selling process? Okay. It's got to be way more detailed than that. And you have to have like a proprietary system that shows how you do something completely different, out of the box, not mildly different. It has to actually set you apart. Something that you can point to say, I have a whole different way of doing this. I approach it from an entirely different angle than any other agent on the market, and it gets results. Let me show you. Right? So as you're going through and trying to figure out what this is for you, okay, you're going to figure out what makes you already number one in people's minds. Where do you already have that positioning? Then how do you define that category? Right? So that's something that you can say, this is where I'm number one. This is where you're going to think of me. And to really refine that, I want you to think of one person in your sphere, one actual client, one actual person that you are working with, have worked with, will work with, want to work with. And I want you to just go put a face to that, that client avatar, and think about working specifically with them and walking them all the way through. Know what they're, when we go and build kind of our client avatar, we want to think of all of their needs, all of their wants, all of their hopes, all of their fears, their aspirations, their concerns, their challenges. Take that one client and say, I'm working with this one person. Walk it all the way through and define everything that you're going to do. So it's a repeatable process. It's something that you can describe to others. If you're going to give your elevator pitch or your sales pitch, or you're going to sit down with someone and talk about how you're different, it can't be in these generalizations. It has to be in specifics. It has to be in something that is mapped out, that you can demonstrate. And then you need proof to show them exactly what you do. All right. So this is something where, we're always told to ask for business. And in some ways, yes, I do always tell people, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. Right? You do want to be asking for business. You do want to, but I want you to approach it a different way. Right? Because that whole question of, let me know if you ever need a realtor. Right? Let me know if you ever know of someone who's buying or selling, give them my name. All of those questions. That's not bad to do, but there's a better way to do it. Right? There's a demonstration in in what you provide, and sharing that, so that you don't just say, I'm better, I'm faster, this is my niche, I'm really good at this, I'm going to treat you like this, I have all of those things. You don't want to tell them what it would be like to do business with you. or why you're better. You want to show it. You want to demonstrate something that's very specific for them to stick in their head. Okay. Then they will come to that conclusion that, wow, you're the one that I need to work with, because they're hearing it all the time. Think about, I don't know about you, but I get postcards and emails and mailers and, door hangers and all that kind of stuff from realtors all the time. And they're basically all claiming the same thing in a different way. So there's three things that you could demonstrate, three ways to do this. I want you to narrow this down for yourself and determine which one you're going to do. All right. So the first one is the hidden need. I want you guys to think about this. Okay. They have a need, but they don't even necessarily realize that they have that need, because they don't know that someone does it, right? They don't know that it's something that people do. They don't know that agents provide that service. They don't know that that's important in order to find the right home and not waste time, or they don't know that it's important in order to get their home sold properly, or to not have the contract fall apart during the sales process once they've already put an offer in on the new house because they have an offer in on their current house. If they don't know that it's something that they should do, then they're not, you can't differentiate there. You need to demonstrate that need. So for example, this one here just says, most owners on your street don't realize a pre-listing inspection is now the difference between one offer and five. What is it that will get more offers, that will create competition, that will prevent the house from falling apart, the contract from falling apart, that will, prevent them from being stressed out during the sales process? All right, what is it? What are those things that are out there? What are the challenges that they're going to come up against? If any of you have bought or sold a home for yourselves recently, right? We always say, like, I feel like it should be a prerequisite that all agents, like every 5 years at least, need to buy and sell a house, because it's a hard process. It's stressful, right? We've gone through it a bunch of times, and it's still, every time, it's stressful. There are parts of the process that are stressful, that are difficult, that are challenging, are just plain annoying. It's packing your house, right? Unpacking once you get in. I mean, just all these little things, right? What are those things that are going to happen? What are the needs that are there in that process? Having that understanding, if they haven't moved in a long time, or they've never moved, right? They don't know what they're up against and what they're going into. Those are the areas where you can provide that guidance. And then depending on the specific clients that you're working with, having a very clear understanding of what it's going to be like for them. If they're an investor, they've got a different set of needs and thoughts and everything else going into it than someone who's downsizing, than a first-time home buyer, than someone who's buying a vacation home, right? Every one of those groups, the different potential groups that you're going to work with, are going to have a different experience. They're going to have different needs and concerns and everything else. There are going to be different areas of that process that will be more challenging for them than it may be for a different group. Knowing that, and then identifying those and saying, I'm the one that gets rid of that, and here's how. And then here are the testimonials from my clients, right? What if it's in a spot where it's hard to get the price right now that you want to get? It used to be, you could get 105, 110% of the asking price, and now it's down to 90 whatever percent. Great. Well, here's how I change that and get you back to where you want to be. Or maybe it's days on market is increasing, right? How do I do that? Whatever it is, whatever the need is for your group. Okay. Just number one, the hidden need, find the hidden need. The second one is the unmet need. The unmet need is the one that they know they have the need, but they don't think they think it's going to be their problem. They don't think that anyone offers it. They don't know that agents do something about that, or maybe other agents do it, or maybe they just don't do it very well. All right. You have some clients who go, hey, I'm just going to handle all these things because no one else will do it as good as I do it. Okay. So they have a need, but they don't know that you can do it and that you can do it really well. And if you just go, yeah, I can meet this need for you, they may be skeptical until you can prove it. Okay. Or maybe they go, well, I really want to stage my house, but I've been told that it costs a whole lot of money. And then if that's something that you provide, if that's part of your services, and you're saying, hey, I've got a designer that walks through with me with every listing and helps stage the home, and that's all part of what I do for you. And here's why that's important. And then here's some evidence of what I've, sold, whether that impacts the days on market and gets the home sold faster, or it impacts the sold price as a percentage of the original list price. These are the numbers that you want to have. All right. So you need to have that proof. You need to have, understand. And these are all, there are so many things that you could choose to be your differentiating factor. But the way you're choosing that is through understanding that client, right? What we did on the last slide is understanding your specific client avatar, the agents or the buyers and sellers that you do work with and want to work with, and really uncovering their process and their needs, understanding any hidden needs that they may have, any needs that they may have that you can alleviate, fears and that sort of thing, right? And then maybe there's what I call the invisible gap. These are the things that they don't know that other people, maybe they assume agents do this, and you say, yeah, agents don't do this. Or maybe they assume agents know this. I got to tell you guys, do you all know that little joke or story about the two hikers who encounter a bear? You guys heard that one? All right. So I'll tell it to you really fast. It's two hikers out in the woods. They're going up the mountain, and all of a sudden, up ahead of them, a huge bear rears up, roars, right? And then he gets down, and you can tell he's getting ready to attack. Hikers are terrified. Okay, but one of them quickly pulls off his backpack, sits down on the log next to him, kicks off his clunky hiking boots, and he's pulling on a pair of running shoes out of his backpack. And the other hiker turns to him and says, "What are you doing? You can't outrun a bear." And he says, "I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you." Right? So don't go hiking with a friend like that. But the point is that in real estate, with so many agents out there, and with the boundary the boundary to get in not being super, super challenging, right? There are a lot of agents out there that don't go above and beyond. And this is true in any industry, especially where you have independent contractors, right? So to be better than many of the other agents around you, that baseline is not always extremely high. Okay. There are a lot, obviously, of fantastic agents out there that go above and beyond and do incredible work, but there are a lot who do not. And so just getting to the point where you're working as a high level professional, sometimes that is your gap, and that's a differentiator, right? What about, if I asked you for a couple of numbers about your business, if I asked you, what are your average days on market? And does that change for single family homes and townhomes and condos? Do you know that for each one of those? What about the different markets? Do you have it broken down by, this city or this neighborhood to understand, okay, well, that's great, but what are your average days on market right over here? Okay, specifically where I am. What is your average sold price as a percentage of your original listing price? Right? What about with your buyers? What is your average contract price as a percentage of the original asking price? Do you know your business? Do you know your numbers? Demonstrating some of those things. Because again, when you're saying this is what I do and this provides this for you, you need some facts, right? You need some evidence for your clients to demonstrate that it works. Because that all sounds really good, but how do I know that works? When I can bring you specifics and demonstrate for you, and then I can demonstrate the market. Here is the average in this category for your market where you live, okay, where you're looking to buy or where you're looking to sell. Here are my numbers. Okay. I'm telling you that I have these things, that I do these things. This is different, and this is a different approach. And now I'm going to show you proof that it works. What if you, come down with something and there's the standard medicine that's out there, and your doctor says, I do something different with my clients, with my patients. I use this medicine. It's an experimental medicine. It's a holistic medicine. It's a whatever. Okay, well, gosh, that seems like the way everybody does it. I don't know if I want to do that. And they say, let me show you the results. Here are the typical results for someone, with what you have. And here are the results for my patients. And they're drastically better. Would you be willing to give that a shot, even though it was kind of a different approach? If you've got the right proof, you probably would be. Okay, so explaining what you do differently, how you do things differently, what sets you apart, and then demonstrating and giving proof and evidence of how that works. And some of that may be testimonials, because if it's not a dollar faster, whatever, it might be easier, less stressful, more fun. Just went above and beyond, took care of these things, treated you a certain way. Great. But then show me evidence. Give me client testimonials that demonstrate that that was actually the experience that people had, what you're telling me. Okay. Showing versus asking. Okay. When you're demonstrating what you do, how you do it, why it's better, and then the evidence that it works, that is always going to be way more powerful than saying, let me know if I can ever help you buying or selling a house. Let me know if you know of someone who's looking to buy or sell. That gets forgotten really quickly, right? That's kind of like, okay, yeah, sure, I will. And they walk away because they're not thinking about it in that moment. You are, but they're not. So when they walk away, it's gone. Then when that opportunity comes up, they're not thinking of it because it hasn't stuck in their head. All right. Also, demonstrating shows that you're the only one who does that. Right? When you're demonstrating, when you're showing a difference, instead of just saying that you're better at it, it's entirely different in being stuck in their head. You have created a category that they didn't have before, and then you're the only one in the category. So when they're thinking of that specific category, that need, you're the only one they can think of. You've created your own category. That's one of the cool things about EXP, right? EXP created the category for a cloud-based brokerage. For a really long time, we were the only name in the game. If you were interested in that flexibility and the cost savings that it provided and the revenue share opportunities and the stock opportunities and all of those things, there was no competition. Now people have started to copy the concept because it's an amazing concept. But at that point, we had such massive market share. These other companies have been out only a few years shorter than we have. And they have a fraction of the number of agents that we have. They sell a fraction of the amount of real estate that we sell because we created the category and we have that, we're past everyone's reticular activator, right? When people think of it, they think of us. We are the category. It's like Kleenex. Okay. I don't know. Do you ever, if you're about to sneeze, do you ever ask someone for a facial tissue? I don't know. I don't. It may be a Puffs. It may be another brand, but I'm asking for a Kleenex. All right. Repeat it, right? This is something where you can't say it once, just like everything else. You do 7 touches in 7 weeks. You're going to take this messaging and you're going to put it out there once a week to your client base, right? The people you're trying to reach with this, you need them to see it and they need to hear it. So they need to get it in this rhythm. They need to see it frequently, okay, where it's out there. But this needs to become who you are, what you do. So when they think of real estate, they just don't think of you as another realtor who helps people buy and sell homes. They think of you as the person who does this particular thing. Okay, your differentiator. So that message needs to be out there very strong. So, once a week for 7 weeks, and then it's being put into wherever they're seeing you 3 times a month, right? They're out there and they're seeing that somehow, whether it's something you're specifically sending them and social media, all of those things, right? All of the different ways where you've built out your touch programs where people are seeing your message, that needs to keep happening because that's where you capture the mind share, and they won't be able to think of anyone else but you when it comes to that. And you're creating a category in real estate that's keying into specifically when someone thinks about buying or selling a house, they don't just go, I need to buy or sell a house. Okay. I would challenge you to ask your clients, current clients, past clients, friends and family, just say, hey, when you think of buying a house, what comes to mind? What are the words that come to mind? Does someone go, like mortgages, or like, having to pack, or people tromping through my house, or, whatever, I'm selling my house, whatever it is, like, having to, look at a million houses and, blah, 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 all that other kind of stuff. Or maybe it's excitement. Maybe it's really cool. But what is it? And same thing, if you think about having to sell your house, what are the thoughts and feelings and words that come to mind for you? Ask that of your client base. Ask that of your audience. Find out what those things are so you can see what their mindset is, because people don't just go, oh, I need to buy or sell a house. They don't think about it clinically. Right? We do. We think about the process. We think about the things that we do to work with a buyer, to uncover their needs, to go then identify the right houses, and then writing offers, and making sure that they're financially qualified. All of those things. We think procedurally what that is. They think emotionally. The clients are thinking emotionally of purchasing or selling a house, and there's going to be something where whether it is a positive emotion or a negative emotion or a mix of both. But there are going to be a few items that will be very important to them that come to mind, and that is what they think of. Those are those needs. Those are the things where if they go, yeah, this, okay, well, if it's positive and it's exciting, it's only that if those things happen, like, yeah, we get a new house and we get to, have all this stuff, and it'll be, maybe it'll be newer. I can't wait till I can finally afford to buy another house because the one I've got is old and it's got all these problems. And I just want to get into a newer home. Okay, well, that's great if they can afford to get into a newer home and they have newer homes in the market and all of those things. So how do you make sure that happens? Because it's only positive and exciting if they get the outcome they want. And if they think of like, oh, I've got to, we're going to have to pack up this house or we do whatever. If those are some of for your, particular category, if those are some of their biggest fears and concerns, then how do you alleviate those going into it? So they go, oh my gosh, you take care of all of that. Wow. All right. Suddenly I can be excited about doing this process. I want to make sure I work with you. Show me how that works. All right. So there's 4 steps for this. Okay, you're naming the category that you own. You're naming the category that you own. What is this? I am number 1 here. Claim it. Right? How am I different? How do I explain it? Right? How do I do it? Okay, so your 1-sentence position. I'm the agent blank turns to when they want blank because I blank. Okay. I'm the agent that this group, this specific client, this group turns to when they want this need, this concern, this enthusiasm, whatever it is, because I do this thing, right? My differentiating factor. Who's the group I want to be focused on? Okay. What are the needs that they have? How do I solve those needs differently? Not just better. Okay. I'm focused on that. I am the category king or queen in that item right there. I'm the only agent who, what? Right? I'm the only agent who does this. The only one, not the one who does it better. I'm the only one. And if you can't finish that sentence yet, then you're still focused on better. Because if you're not the only one that provides something or approaches something a certain way or focuses in on something, does something differently, okay, then you're doing the same service that clients can get from any other realtors or a large handful of other realtors. Now you're just focused on doing it better than those people do. Okay, so maybe they don't focus specifically on something and focusing on that as a differentiator, but you have to show how it's different. As you have to narrow that down. And then you have to pick how you're going to demonstrate it. You're going to have a list of things that show it and what you do. It might be information, it might be some other things. And this is something that you want to give away. Don't worry about anything else. You want to just give it to, whether it's reports and information, data, processes, all that other kind of stuff. Just give it to them. Just give it to them. Because when it comes time for them to have to buy or sell, they're not going to take your checklist and give it to someone else and do X, Y, and Z. Will a few people do that? Yeah, but they weren't going to work with you anyway. Okay? You're going to get the people that want to work with you specifically because you're like, oh my gosh, you know me. You know what I need. You understand this. Okay. Now I want you guys to write 3 names down. Okay. Who are people that could buy or sell in the next 12 months? Okay. Who are 3 people out there that you could connect with that may buy or sell in the next month? Or maybe they're your best referring partners who can give you your next 3 clients. Okay. What I want you to do is when you go through this process and you come up with your differentiating factor, and you're going to do this, right away, then you are going to send that information to them. Maybe there's someone who said, yeah, I'm thinking about putting my house on the market. Yeah, I'm thinking about going to look for a house. Right. Now I want you to be like, instead of just relying on, great, I can help you, I'm really good at that. Right. You're going to demonstrate this. So you lock them in as a client, lock them as a referral opportunity. Look at your sphere. Look at the people who are most likely, and this may even be something that you're putting this into marketing. Okay. And you're putting this out there, whether it's socials, etc. But I want you to get something out right away. I want you to see the difference on this. I want you to take action. Because when you're looking at getting more business, when you're looking at, increasing your sales, a lot of times we're looking for the silver bullet. We're looking for something that is going to work immediately right now. Okay. So, but unless this is your last year, if this is your last hurrah, if this is your last year in real estate, your last spring market and all of those things, then, maybe you don't have to worry about it. But if you're planning on being in business for a while, you are constantly planting bamboo. They say the first year it sleeps, the second year it creeps, and the third year it leaps. Right? You are planting bamboo or ground cover. You're putting in these things, but you have to start. You have to start. And so you put that in there. You start to do this. Start with one person. Get it out to one person. Send it tonight. Send it tonight. Send it today. Get something out to someone today and just make that a habit. Getting it out there, sending your message out there, sending this communication, okay, and planting these seeds, because your reputation will change over time and enhance where people think of you because of this differentiating factor. It's not going to happen sending something one time to a handful of people. It's going to be getting this out there and making this your persona and making this something where this is what they think of when they think of you. Oh, you're the one that does this. Right? You're the one that does that. I know that about you. Okay. You will be the only logical choice. If you are meeting their needs, okay, and you have to figure out whether it's going to be, a hidden need, right, et cetera, right? Or you're closing that gap, whichever one of those needs that you're filling, you have to understand your client avatar. You have to really go through that process, go through that mindset. Like I said, ask questions of them to figure out what their mindset is, to really get dialed in if you don't already know, or if you just want to enhance your knowledge of how they think of buying and selling real estate. It's a really interesting exercise to go through anyway, just to really get in their brains. The psychology is so important because for almost everyone, when it comes to buying and selling, it's an emotional decision, not a logical decision. Okay. Everybody with me? Got a couple heads nodding. Good. All right. So what questions do you have? We got a couple minutes. Anybody have any questions on this? No questions. All right. I either explained it so well that there are no questions, or I've thoroughly confused you and you have no idea what I'm talking about.
So you're talking about client testimonials, Dave. These can be cross market, right? They don't have to specifically be from real estate purchase and sale clients. They just have to speak to the things that you do different and better, correct?
That is 100% correct. And I'm glad you said that. They don't have to be real estate clients. They can be friends, they could be family, they could be clients in something else. If you're new to real estate, but you've done things in other industries, all right, other jobs, whatever it is, if you know your whatever is your differentiator, right? Whatever is setting you apart, whatever you're talking about that you do, then when you go to get your testimonials, you're going to ask people for testimonials pertaining to that. Hey, let me ask you a question, right? When we used to work together, when I sold you medical equipment, all right, I'm just going to pick something out here, right? Then like, when it came to, ensuring that the process was very smooth for you and that you were informed at the highest level, like, could you like share a little bit about how I did that for you, how I made you feel for that, or if I did a good job at that for you, or whatever it is, right? And again, I'm just making up all of the things, but you can ask those questions, and then all they do, they'll just say, Brandon, it was always such a pleasure working with Brandon. He was thorough and made sure that this, that, boom, and they're giving you a testimonial based on what you're setting as your differentiator. And it doesn't matter what the category is. Heck, you could have been a babysitter. Talk to the parents whose kids you. I mean, it really could be anything. It could be anything that you did. You were a teacher. Great. Let's, get some testimonials. It doesn't matter, what that category is and who the clients are. You're getting people that are confirming that they have had that experience with you, and what you're saying was also their experience. What else? You're going to want to go put this into place. So make sure you understand how to do it. You go to, right. You leave the class and then go, oh man, you sit down to do it like from a practical standpoint. And then you're like, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Now's your time.
Carly
Carly.
has a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Carly.
Hey, so this is great stuff. This is actually exactly what I needed today.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Good.
But just so I am clear, it sounds like basically am I like out of these three people, like I've already got my list here. It sounds like I'm preparing something to send to them. Like am I asking for testimonials from others to send to these three people, or how exactly would I go about that?
Okay. So when you go through the process, you're depending on how much you know and don't know and everything else, you're going to have different steps in it, right? So you need to, discover what you're going to have as your differentiator. If you already know, this is my approach, this is what makes me different, this is what sets me apart, then you can start from there and start zeroing in on it, right? And then you're going to build out what you do so that you can explain that, right? I need to be able to then convey to you. So for instance, if I'm talking about something I do for sellers, and I'm going to talk to you about potentially either I want to have the opportunity to come meet with you about listing your home, or I'm sitting with you and we're talking about listing your home. I want to be able to explain why I'm different and what I do that's different and why that's important to them and what the impact is. And then I want to show proof that I actually do it and that it actually has the impact that I want, right? So the work and the homework that I need to do that is starting to gather the testimonials. That is I need something that's written down. I'm a big fan of naming everything. I think if you name something, it makes it seem more legit. So you'll notice all the programs that we do and all the other things that we do, they've got a name to them because that sticks in people's minds. Number one, it makes it easy for them to think about exactly what it is you're talking about that you do. Whatever it's a program that you have, it's an approach that you have, it's something like trademarked, right? That is your approach and it's the name that you've got for it and everything else. That is having that structure and then defining what that is with some bullet points where you can kind of give almost your elevator pitch on what sets you apart. Someone says, what do you do? I don't help clients buy and sell real estate. I do this. This is my specific approach. I do this. No one else does this. I'm the only one out there that does this for clients, right? And what that is, it's this, and this, and that's, and then here are the results that it's created. Right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So then you're going through and getting your testimonials. If you're not sure what it is yet, that's when you go back and start talking to people, just the general population, buyers and sellers, current clients, whatever it is. And that's when you start asking those people that are in your niche that you want to be working with, they're to say, hey, can I ask you a couple questions about real estate? Right?
Okay.
When you think of buying a house, what do you think of?
Right.
What positive things come to your mind? What negative things come to mind? What concerns do you immediately have? What stresses if you're like, hey, you need to go buy a house tomorrow, what would make you like terrified and what would make you excited? If I said, well, hey, we're going to put your house on the market tomorrow, you need to list your house and sell it, what would you be excited about and what would you be terrified about and worried about and that kind of stuff, and just uncovering what those are and ask those of a whole bunch of people, and you'll start to see common themes if you're talking to the same general group of people. And then you'll say, okay, now how do I already meet those needs? How do I already do that? Now, how do I turn it into kind of a program, if you will? And then how do I demonstrate that what I'm doing works? So thank you, Kim.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. That makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure thing. So this is an important process to go through because so many of us go into this and we just try to be really good at helping people buy homes or try to be really good at helping people sell homes. And that's a very difficult thing to sell. Then you're just saying, I'm a realtor. You know me, I'm great. I'm going to take really good care of you. And that's not enough. That's not enough because you're hearing that from everyone. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted. The other thing too is once you start getting clients and reviews, if you look at your reviews, they pretty much tell you.
Yeah,
Like,
it is true.
no, it's true. So, but
Yep.
for me, like I've been around for a long time, but I still haven't fine-tuned that thing that makes me different, but I'm starting to see it in my reviews. So look at your reviews, guys, and see what they're saying about you.
Yeah,
You
positive
know?
and negative, right?
Yeah,
The
both.
things that stand out to them as positive, she did this, she was really good at this, she always did this for us. Those are the things that were important to them, and it stood out to them as what made them really happy about working with you.
Yeah.
And then any other concerns that they had, even if they go, well, we ran into these challenges, but she handled it really well. Great. But that's one of those things where it's like, okay, how do we, in my reviews, I don't want them to be thinking about the challenges. So how do I alleviate those on the front end?
Right.
Sorry, another quick question.
Yeah.
Just while I'm on it, what about for agents that are newer? So for me, I just hit my first year, and so I don't have a lot of reviews yet. I think I have like maybe two or
Okay.
three. So is it like important for me to just kind of gather from my sphere, my friends and stuff, like their, sort of input on it and like because I'm newer, so I don't have much. So I just wondered how you would think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in a little bit to what I was talking about for Brendan is that, get obviously the ones that you've worked with as clients in real estate, but then anyone else who knows you, who can give you, whether it's a character reference, you want it to be as close to being about this differentiating factor that you're talking about as possible. So you just ask them, you just need to direct them instead of saying, hey, could you give me a testimonial? I want to, I know you haven't worked with me to buy or sell a house, but you've worked with me with this, or you've known me for 20 years or, whatever it is. And then instead of just saying, give me a testimonial about how great I am, you could say, this is an area where I differentiate myself with my clients, right? And this is the outcome of what I want them to feel or experience or whatever. Is there anything that you could put together, anything that you could write about me that in your experience with me, knowing me, working with me in this capacity, that would speak to that specifically.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Right?
I appreciate you.
Of
Thank you.
course. Of course. All right, everyone, we are at the top of the hour. Hopefully this is helpful to you. This is about going into your business strategically. Okay. This is not just saying, okay, I know how to write contracts. I know how to take listings. This is about being strategic about getting business and having something specific to say, not just shooting out, broad messages into the universe and hoping that someone remembers you. And this really dials in how you do business, and it allows you to speak about it succinctly, eloquently, and to address needs right up front. And that will get that, as you're known for that, that's how people will talk about you. So when you're looking for referrals from your sphere of influence, if your sphere of influence thinks of this when they think about you, when they talk to someone who's like, oh, I'm thinking about selling your house, and they're going to go, I have a friend who's an agent and they do this for their clients and it's awesome. They're going to go, oh, that sounds, yeah, that's great. I definitely need that. Get me their number. Okay. All right, everyone. I appreciate you. Have an awesome week. This will be uploaded, so you'll have this to go back to and refer. Please reach out if you have any questions, if there's anything we can do to help you. Cheers.
Thank you so much.